Good morning. Welcome to Zen Glop, the podcast, music and meditation. Today, we're going to talk more about Socrates, specifically Socratic aporia, and maybe with a cross-slice, a section, a cross-section of quantum physics, or at least some of the questions that arise in quantum physics. So what does that mean? How am I going to pull that together? Sounds a bit suspect, doesn't it? Socratic quantum aporia. Well, so here's what I'm thinking. I am reading right now one of those books about quantum physics that's written for the general audience, right? Someone like me who doesn't have any real background in physics or mathematics, but has a general interest. So this particular book is called The Hidden Reality by Brian Greene. I think it's maybe 10 years old now. So it could be that a lot of the material is already out of date, but he is describing maybe 10 different ideas about the multiverse. In this particular book, he's exploring different theoretical frameworks that all lead to some form of a multiverse model, where the universe that we consider the universe, is actually one of many multiverses. And so each of these theoretical frameworks suggests something within them that leads to that. And one of the first is based on the quantum probability, quantum uncertainty. So I haven't finished the book yet. I'm sure I'm going to make some mistakes here. And for those of you who are experts in the subject of physics, please do feel free to correct me, roughly and abrasively if you choose, but gently and compassionately if you are able. So, all right, let's think of it this way, right? One of the frameworks of modern physics is quantum uncertainty. That at the quantum level, the material, the fabric of reality is uncertain. It is derived not from fixed behavior, but from probability. And that the collapsing of that probability wave is influenced somehow by the observation. And that with the act of observation, one of the many possible states of the atom, the subatomic particles, and the grosser reality that is made up of those atoms and particles, we observe, we abide in, we reside in one of those possible combinations. But why that one and not any of the many others? And what happens to those many others? And one thought experiment is that they also manifest in a different dimension or different universe, where from the smallest subatomic particle up through to the broadest structures of the universe, every possible combination of those events does occur. They just occur in different dimensions or different universes within this infinite number of multiverses. But we don't know, right? And we don't know why the one set of observations and probability results, we don't know why we're in this one and not a different one. Or maybe we are in the other one, and some of our experiences and phenomena are actually the result of an alternate Andrew having a similar but slightly different experience, and maybe there's a relationship that is unmeasurable today, but that still impacts us. That maybe now I'm not saying anything that Brian Greene, who is a reputable, thoughtful physicist, he would never say anything like this. But what if there's some quantum relationship between similar forms in these parallel multiverses? And perhaps the further away from the similar event that you get, the less that connection can be committed or established, perhaps. So, for example, I am here. I have a cup of coffee. This morning, I brewed using a different type of bean. I usually use the Whole Foods Italian roast. It's a very basic roast. But for daily pot of coffee made in my drip coffee, it's just absolutely perfect. There's no questions about it. It's not the greatest cup of coffee in the world, but it has never let me down. Today, I have a sample of mushroom coffee from the Four Sigmatic folk, and I do use their mushroom supplement. I quite often add it to that Whole Foods coffee. But today, we had a sample pack of the actual ground mushroom coffee, where that lion's mane extract and possibly some other mushroom additives are already in there. So I made it, and I'm drinking it. But maybe in the 1 over multiverse, Andrew decided, Andrew.1.2, if I'm Andrew Prime, let's say that Andrew.1, decided to ignore that today. And so is drinking the same Whole Foods blend with the same proportion in the same mug that we always drink. That's a very minor discrepancy at the gross level. I can only imagine at the quantum level the complexity of variation. And I do remember when I read the Tao of Physics a long time ago. It's on my list of books to reread. One of the criticisms that was leveled at that book by other physicists was that you simply cannot apply the rules and thinking about quantum level at the gross material level. Which, of course, makes sense, right? We don't live in a universe where I can close my eyes, open them, look somewhere else, and then a different probability field is unfolded. The weight of matter, the metaphysical weight of matter, starts to suggest other rules. At least that was my understanding of the criticism that was leveled at the Tao of Physics. So there's this attitude of why this set of quantum observations and not some other, and we will never know. And this is now I'm getting back to the physics of it. We simply won't know why this and not that. Why something and not something else. The bigger question about why something rather than nothing isn't exclusive to the question about multiverse, right? That's a much bigger, more interesting, not more interesting, but it's a more difficult question in some ways. Like, if we've got the a priori assumption that there are quantum particles that behave probabilistically, and that from that pattern of probable outcomes and observations we arrive at one set, that's fine. But why do we have that problem in the first place? We need to think about why there's even a question to be asked in the first place. And I don't think that that's part of our common, comfortable thought process. And so this is why Socrates was executed. That's a leap. That's a hell of a leap, but bear with me. Socrates was executed for all kinds of political reasons. But one of the reasons is that everyone thought he was a fucking asshole. And one of the reasons they thought he was a fucking asshole was that whenever anyone talked to him, friend or foe, they would walk away not even knowing what the word is, to reference Heidegger and Bill Clinton. They would walk away with this. The word is aporia. This notion that we don't even know what we were saying at the start. We cannot even frame a meaningful question. It is a word designed to explain and describe the sensation that occurs at the end of a Socratic dialogue, where you may start by saying, I will live a just life. Or, and this is one of the common starting points for the Socratic dialogues, of course I can tell you what a just life is. Not only do I want to live one, but I can teach you how to do it as well. Can it be taught? What is it? What is it in its unique definition? Not as a circular reference to other behavior that we can also challenge the definition of. Is a just life a life that is one where we follow the laws of the city, where we accumulate wealth and comfort, where we follow virtue? Well, there you go, right there. Once you've said virtue, Socrates is going to be all over you and say, virtue, yes, what is virtue? Is it the ability to fight well in armor and not flee from an enemy? Is it the ability to run a state wisely? Is it the ability to educate the youth in gymnastics? What is virtue that we will seek to follow it, and that the pursuit of virtue leads to a just life? All of these questions about what is this invariably lead to a contradictory statement when you were talking to Socrates. Hence why everyone thought he was a fucking asshole. But he wasn't just playing mind games, and he wasn't just being an asshole. He was pointing out that language assumes a field of reference that is entirely made up. It is necessary in order for us to engage in acts of human civilization. And we know more now than Socrates did about language, or at least we think we do. We have a body of knowledge and study around semantics and around grammar, some of which had yet to be written down or defined. Aristotle later did much of that. We think we have a genetic understanding of language. We think there's a language gene. We think we know about the role of language in the course of the last 25,000 years of human history. So we think we know a lot more than Socrates did in terms of our scientific ability to define what language is. But when Socrates is challenging his partners in dialogue to explain what they mean by justice or virtue, these concepts that appear self-evident, particularly to a 5th century Athenian who would have defined not just himself as a person, and it is always himself, and in that flawed and narrowly defined democracy. He would have defined himself and the city and probably civilization using words like justice and virtue. But then when Socrates shows up and says, well, what is that word justice? What is the just life? Excellent, you can tell me what the just life is so that I may go away from here and pursue it. Another of Socrates' dialogue gambits is to position himself as the student. I know nothing. Tell me then. If you can tell me what justice is wonderful, I will change my life and follow you. I will do exactly what you say. And then invariably you end up in these circles. If you're lucky, you end up in a circle where you simply have to admit that you contradicted yourself. it is equally likely that you will end up staring at the words you have been using and realizing that you don't even know what they mean. And because of that, you don't even know what meaning means. It's a phenomenological exposure to uncertainty. And it is an absolutely necessary precondition to consider any of the things that we talk about in this podcast, whether it's meditation or art, music, spirit, this idea that we should approach everything with absolute bafflement as our precondition, with the expectation that no matter what clarification we seek, what information we acquire, or what wonders and realizations we may come across, that initial state of not knowing, that initial state of bafflement is as true for the Socratic dialogues as it is for the physicists of the 21st century. And how wonderful is that? So let us cultivate that feeling and go on from there. So, all right, I think that's it for today. If you have any questions, drop me a note, zenglop@gmail.com. Leave a comment below, subscribe, etc., etc. Keep your wits about you.